Okay, welcome to join today's community meeting. And now, something about the overall status. 1.14.1. The tentative release is on 26. Okay, this week we are running some E2E test, and the manual test for the issues has been fixed for this release. And the next week we will start the other processes of the release. So everything's on track now. 1.15. So the highlight joint is the FC that is on 26. We can sync up the status later. For the individual updates, I have merged some items. Some small items like the replica deprecation and the backup repository configuration. And now I'm continue working on the data mover microservice tasks, and all the task PRs have been merged. And I'm doing the smoke testing, and we'll further do some functional testing later. And till now, I think I will have one more PR to include some enhancements for some part of the code. That's what the plan. Okay, so Scott, please.
Yeah, so the ongoing backup performance improvements work. The second PR has been submitted. I believe it was about a week and a half ago. There's been some reviews. One's got one ACK already. So if anyone else that's planning on reviewing that can go back and either review again or for the first time and get that merged. The third PR is out there. That's a draft. It'll be a draft until the second PR merges, and so I can rebase those changes in because it depends on that. The third PR implements the actual workflow changes, so the item block model, grouping items and blocks and all of that, and the unit test associated with that. The other thing I'm waiting on before I move it out of draft is I want to do some more manual testing with backups and restores in various scenarios. So I'm hoping to get that work wrapped up this week, obviously dependent on testing, and is also dependent on the second PR getting merged. After this, functionality should be complete. The fourth PR forthcoming is going to be the documentation changes, update documenting the new plugin type and all that.
Okay, so totally we will have 4 PRs, right? So
yeah, exactly.
One more.
Three implementation PRs, and then the one more is going to be documentation associated with this.
So in terms of the FC, it is enough to have 3 PRs. The current 2
exactly. Yeah, we don't need the documentation for each complete. So I would say we have almost 2 weeks now, maybe a week and a half. That should be sufficient time at this point, unless I come up with major problems in testing, or we have a lot of comments that require a lot of rework. If we assume it's mostly good with minor changes based on reviews and based on testing, I think at this point we're in good shape to get this in by the feature complete.
Okay. Okay, so Jim, please.
Not very much from my side. I was working on the 1.14.1 E2E testing. Basically, that's all from my side.
Okay, thanks. And Shubham, please.
I started working on the backup PVC configuration support. I have a PR up, and I need to do some functional testing. That's it from my side.
Okay, thanks. And Tiger, please.
I have 2 PRs ready for review, and then I'm working on the new doc on NFS volume. Someone asked if we could document it, the limitations, so I'll investigate that and see if we can make a doc happen. And that's it for me.
Okay. As for this one, I think actually I think we haven't got any chance to test to back up the FS source volume with root squash. I think we haven't because you know the uploader, I mean the file system uploader, either Rustic or Copia, need to back up and restore both the file data and the metadata, including the username and the user group, and some other things which need to do the change owner or change mode, right? So I think this will only happen when Velero have the root privilege. So I think we can, if we want to do this, and we can do a full test and check if the both the data and metadata backup results work.
Yeah, I know in the past, on the ADP side, we've done this several times with and with NFS, there's two different things that can happen. The base scenario, which is the one I'm familiar with on the ADP side, is if you just have manually provisioned NFS volumes with no storage class, that has worked in the past for us. Obviously, we need to test it again with the Velero test to be sure again. And also because it's been a while, and also Copia. I don't believe we've tested this with Copia. The other scenario would be a CSI storage class that uses NFS volumes on the back end. And that one we'd also want to test in the data mover scenario as well. The manually non-CSI version would not be data mover or appropriate anyway. That wouldn't work there. It's only FS backup. But I suspect it will probably work, at least with Grestic, because it's worked in the past. Obviously, we need to test with Copia. The thing that I think makes it work here with the supplemental groups is that the node agent is still running its root. The only issue is that with root squashing enabled, the NFS mount is not allowed to access things via that root. I think the change mods and all that work as long as you're trying to set ownership to a user that the supplemental group is set to that's valid. Again, we need to test it, but I do suspect it will work because we've seen it work in the past.
Yeah, here's one point. Maybe some difference for copy and residual, right? So
yeah, exactly.
like,
and to be clear, I have never tested NFS with Copia before. I've only tested with Restic in the past.
Yeah, I just want to get some from the technical point. It's like
makes sense, and we want to make sure that
way. The way Rustic and Copia to to treat the restoration of the metadata. For example, Rustic may just skip it when any error happened, but Copia may report error and stop. Just some guess. So we need
no, that makes sense. And especially if we document, if we discover that there's some use cases that work and some don't, then we can include that in the doc to recommend, okay, this is only supported in this limited use case, and these other cases it doesn't work. But just because we do have users out there that have CSI storage classes based on NFS, we kind of want to test to know what works, what doesn't, and then document how to make it work for those cases that work. So I think we all agree there. We need some testing before we can declare this done.
Yeah, okay. So Tiger, can I assign this issue to you, and you work on that?
Yeah, yes, please.
Oh, okay, thank you. I will do that later. Okay, that's for the status update and topics. I have one about the date of the FC for 1.15. So I want to sync up with everyone the status of the tasks that you are owning for 1.15. Do we need some delay for the target?
So for my feature that I'm working on, I don't see any need for delay. I guess just anyone else is working on 115 tasks. Is anybody working on something for 115 that is at risk and not being done by the 26th is the question.
Yeah.
We should be good from my end at least. I only have this backup PVC feature, so most likely this week or next week early should get merged.
The other question I guess we should ask, if we do identify something at risk, is again, we have to make that decision. Is this important enough to push off the date for, or if we're not done with that feature, do we push it off to 116? But until we know what issues are, we can't really make that call. Hopefully we're good for everything, and then we can just push forward with the plan as is.
Okay, so right now, for now, you are okay for this existing target for 1.20. I mean the FC target, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We'll discuss this further with internally and with Daniel, and if we need some delay, we will make it out by the end of this week.
Yeah, I would say you want to probably look at each issue, one by one, and just sort of see, okay, this one's good, this one's good, this one's good, and then if we identify anything specific that's at risk, then we can discuss, what to do about it.
Okay. Okay.
Just from the milestone list, yeah.
Yeah, I think we can go through the issue one by one
Exactly,
internally.
and then
I mean,
offline
yeah,
through Slack,
yeah,
if,
offline, yeah.
identify, if there's anything there's questions about, concerns about, ping whichever of us is working on it, and we can have that discussion in Slack throughout the week, or bring it up next week, so we can make sure that we're on top of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Got that. I will do this offline.
Yeah, if you have any, if anyone has any specific questions now, we have time, feel free to bring it up. But if there's no concerns raised right now, we can go back to this later in the week and then revisit.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyone have anything to talk about this right now? This is all the issue we have for 1.50.
Yeah, I have seen most of the issue currently is in Broadcom Teams team, so we can discuss and go through them one by one offline.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Any other topics today? Okay, I think then we can put off the meeting today here. Thanks for joining. Have a good day and a good evening. Bye bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.